Hi all, myself Heera from the Department of Journalism. So in this session, we are going to deal with the Victorian age. The name Victorian age has come from Queen Victoria because she was ruling at that moment, at that period. So before moving on to the literature of Victorian period, we should need to know what was the social background at that time. Because whenever a writer writes something, definitely he will get an influence from the society. So we need to understand what was the social background of that time. The period was also known as the age of industrialization because at that time technology has advanced and many new inventions happened. So that is why the period is called age of industrialization. As we all know, before industrialization, people were doing the works instead of the machines. So many people were employed at that time. But when the machines were introduced, many people lost their jobs. That is the reason people or the society were facing the society was facing poverty and exploitation at that time. And about the migration, yeah, many people migrated to England for getting a job. The major reason is that Irish potato famine at that time in Ireland. The potato farming or the forms the crop fall happened. At that time, people migrated to England to get a job and to get a secured life. Then, as we know, people were migrating to a particular place. There are many. They need to live, right? They need to get a shelter. So they started to live in slums. So the slums sprang up. As a part of that, what happened? Pollution increased, dirt increased, and the period is also known for the greatest pollution eradication period. Eradication, that is, at that time people or the government put some effort to clean the slums. And as the result of this industrialization, a genre called industrial novel was popped out. For let's take the example of Charles Dickens. In Charles Dickens, most of the works can be categorized under this industrial novel. For example, Hard Times, Oliver Twist. Those are examples for industrial novel. In industrial novel, the major themes will be like industrialization, poverty, inequality, capitalization, and all those, and the life of working class. And the period is also known as Age of Reform because at that time Reformation happened. Or you can let's see what is Chartism before moving on to this. Chartism was a movement which was led by the working class, and the major idea behind this movement was that they need some reformation. Then they need some acts to protect themselves. So they started a movement towards the parliament, and they requested the parliament to get some acts, reformation acts, or to pass some reformation bills. So age of reformation, during that time many acts were passed. One is slavery abolishment of 1833. That is, the abolishment of slavery act was put forward during that period. Then Factory Act. Yeah, Factory Act of 1833, actually it is an act that is mainly focusing on the welfare of of workers, and child labor abolishment 1833, and trade unions. Yeah, as part of this industrialization, there aroused a group called capitalists. So there was a class division between this working class and capitalists, or bourgeois. You can call them bourgeois because they were not properly treating these workers. So those workers, they united together and made a trade union. And with this help of trade union, they started to question the capitalists. They started to ask for their welfare. They started to struggle for their welfare. So they started to strike against the actions of this capitalists. Then about Victorian temper. Yeah, Victorian temper means it's all about an attitude of ideologies during this Victorian era, because at that time many dichotomies or multiple attitudes were there, like science and religion. Yeah, until Darwin, Charles Darwin, published his work on evolution, everyone used to believe that every human were born out of Adam and Eve, which is a belief of, which is a part of Bible or biblical belief. So when Darwin said that every human was born, or they came from microorganism, they evolved from microorganism, people started to question their own religion. So there are some people who supported science, as well as there are people who still remain to believe in those religious things. And at that time, there were two political parties, Whigs and Tories, that is conservatives and liberals. There are also multiple attitudes existed during that time regarding the politics. And another important thing we need to discuss about the Victorian age is Victorian morality or the Victorian society. Victorian society is a best example for the patriarchal or male dominant society. At that time, women were not allowed to publish works in their own name. So they are forced to take some pseudonyms just to publish their own artworks. Let's take the examples of Bronte sisters. They were not supposed to publish their names in publish their works in their own name, so they have taken another pseudonyms. For example, Charlotte Bronte has taken the name Currer Bell, then Anton Bell for Anne Bronte, Ellis Bell for Emily Bronte. Same in case of George Eliot. Her original name was Mary Ann Evans. When you look into the history of Victorian literature, you can see that the only writer who published in her own name is Elizabeth Barrett Browning. So these are the social background of the Victorian period. So in the next class or in the future classes, you can see how all this social background is reflected in the literature. Thank you, and we'll see you in the next session.